G'day and welcome to Aussievision. This is Dale.
And g'day, I'm Mike.
And welcome to our second episode of 2024. We're only doing these around monthly, and it has been a big month, Michael, hasn't it?
Yes, I think since the last time we've spoken, we've got 7 songs come out. So there's a lot happening, and it's just going to hit turbocharge in the next couple of months.
Exactly. And also we've had other things going on as well, not just in our own lives. Our little trip to Melbourne and Wellington, New Zealand was awfully fun, I must say.
Yes, great stuff.
But that's the things we can do now when we're not doing a weekly podcast.
And fantastic to see Monty from Second Cherry at the tennis in Melbourne, which was lovely to see him.
Oh, yeah, all the way from the UK. Second Cherry podcast, definitely worth checking out. Nice little surprise there. Now, look, other than the national finals and songs coming out, there's been some other news, of course, as well. We had the semi-final allocation draw. Australia drew semi-final number 1, second half.
Yes.
Always important. Have a few friends in there, like UK, Iceland, Finland, Sweden.
Yes, Sweden voting for us.
And good for Cyprus to get Australia.
Exactly, we've got Cyprus in there as well. So, I mean, we always say, if your song's good enough, you'll get through. But in an all-tally vote semi-final, it doesn't hurt to have some friends around.
Exactly. Looking at the draw, there was a really, really good little graphic by a ex-user, Twitter user called Dolphin Dane, who had every single bias of every country. And when you looked at what Australia could have got, we pretty much came out almost as good as we possibly could. Getting Sweden and UK was particularly good. I would have liked Malta, I must say. I think Malta would have liked us as well. But, you know, I think it's a good draw, and we just have to wait and see what our entry is.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to hearing what we've got. Apparently, it'd be nice if we could.
Hey, look, for those people going, oh my God, when are we going to get news from Australia? Generally, unless it's been Australia decides or a couple of years in December, it's always been at the end of Feb into early March.
Yep.
So just be patient. That's not unusual. Many countries do it. SBS in Australia isn't being more secretive than a lot of other nations. But yeah, look, you know, it's testing the patience, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, we're actually waiting on a lot of songs from a lot of countries at this point, so we're no different.
Exactamundo. And on top of the semi-final allocation draw, we also got the hosts, which we've got actress and kind of, I wouldn't say comedian, but a lot of comedic acting. Marlene Ackerman, she's big in America as well, so a big artist there. Big actress. And of course, Petra is back for the 3rd time.
Yes, 3rd time hosting Eurovision, quite iconic. I noticed, look, pretty much online, everybody was pretty positive that she was back. She is iconic with the entire contest, and the last 2 times she's done a fantastic job. So, not surprised there. Couple of people saying, look, 3rd time, could we have someone a little fresh? I kind of get that sentiment too, but safe pair of hands, I think, for SVT.
Yeah, I actually thought she wouldn't do it. And I didn't know if they'd bring her back again. You know, it has been a number of times, but she's iconic. She's so good at it. She did such a great job on her own, and then her and Mons were such a great team. And look, I think it's one of those things now. I understand where people are coming from, but I reckon when you get to May, you'll be thankful that she's doing it, because she's an absolute star. We got to see her live in Stockholm at our first Eurovision, and she'll be fabulous for everyone going there.
Yeah, I think she'll do a fantastic job, without a doubt.
All right, shall we get on to the songs, Michael? Because there's the 7 we've got to get through here, and some national final results to talk about as well.
All right, let's kick it off with one of our big 5 nations, Dale. Let's head off to Spain. We have a winner there. It is Nebulosa and Thora.
Pero esta es mi naturaleza. Cambiar por ti me da pereza. Estoy en un buen momento. Solo era cuestión de tiempo. Voy a salir a la calle a gritar lo que siento a los 4 vientos.
Well, our winner for Benidorm Fest 2024 was Nebulosa. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, first of all, it was a shock, right? I mean, I know that the group, because it's a duo group, electro group. A lot of people refer to her. It's easy to do because she's the star, right? Mm-hmm. They did win their semi-final, but I kind of thought it'd recalibrate in the final. I didn't expect her to win. I always loved this in the studio, and I loved it live. You know, she's giving the mother energy, the mama energy, the Zora energy of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And it's a fun bop, and it's a bit of a throwback, and it's done well for what it is. Do I think this is equal first in a jury? No. That is the most ludicrous jury result I've seen since Festivale Kungas just a few months ago. But like, I'm not angry it's going. I'm just kind of just surprised and don't know how I feel about it going, but I love the song.
Yeah, I'll agree. It probably wasn't one of the big headline favourites heading into Benidorm. It got a lot of jury love in both the semi-final and the grand final, but you could just hear the crowd every time they performed it. They went off. So maybe the juries were a little swayed with how popular it was with the crowd. I'm kind of going to agree with you as far as the song goes. It's all very solid. There's nothing really groundbreaking musically here. We have heard it all before. Some nice little retro elements. I wish her lead vocal was a little stronger. I think that's where it's falling down a little bit for me. Because for me, it's almost like in the same realm as a Cicciolina, but it's not giving me the power that Cicciolina gave. So I think it's all very good, and you're right, in the studio, I think it's excellent. Just want to see that live performance get polished up and be a little stronger.
Yeah, vocal. What vocal? This is the whole thing, right? How can you win a jury with that vocal? Like, she's not singing badly. She's just not singing very much. And look, we've seen this kind of vintage artists come out with a bit of this, dated banger. And look, we love that kind of stuff, right? But I never took it seriously. And how is Europe going to treat it? That's the thing. I think there were other entries that had points for Eurovision. And I think the point system of Benidorm just makes it really, once the jury's decided, it's almost all over. Now, I wasn't complaining when Chanel was chosen that way. So, I think it is about realizing sometimes voting systems will go your way, sometimes they won't go your way.
Yeah, and I think that is the big question. Will Europe get behind this? Because I don't think it's going to get the jury love that it got in Benidorm. And who's voting for this publicly? So I know a lot of the Spaniards were like, who cares about the competition? This is what we like. And it did win the tally vote. But come May, and if it ends up with like a, Blanca Paloma kind of result as far as the tally vote goes, we could see some gnashing of teeth. But who knows? It might become, maybe a radio hit beforehand, something like that, which might help the Europeans get their heads around it a bit more.
Yeah, I saw a few people kind of comparing to Ciao Ciao a little bit in terms of like, hey, this was going to be the song that didn't win the national final, but it could be a bit of a sleeper hit. But, I think even Ciao Ciao's vocal in performance was, at least it gave something, right?
Or even Nochentero from last year.
Exactly.
Was probably the biggest hit coming out of Spain from Benidorm, and it didn't go,
Yeah, totally. So, look, it's going to be fun. It's going to go off in Euro Club. I'm just not sure it's going to go off on the scoreboard. But, hey, if the Spanish are happy with it, which I don't think they will become May, then that's absolutely fine. And we'll see what happens.
Exactly. All right, shall we have a quick little chat about the others in Benidorm there? Let's talk about St. Pedro. He probably went in one of the favourites. Juries liked him, not so much the demoscopic and the televote.
Yeah, that was really interesting, actually, because I thought he had a point of difference, particularly in that lineup, that, it was a beautiful piece of music and performed really well. And for me, I thought it stood out in that group. I was worried about how it would translate amongst 26 songs at Eurovision. To me, it didn't have the Salvador Sobral special magic. It kind of gave me more toilet break for a lot of people. But I thought it had jury points there. But I do think it probably had more points than Nebulosa. But in the end, I'm not angry it didn't go, because I liked it, but I never got that excited by it.
Yeah, I liked it too. It was all very solid, but it didn't really get the heart pumping, did it? I was going to say, he sang it well. The presentation was really odd. What were those sort of silhouette people twerking in the background to a ballad, to a heartfelt ballad?
Well, mid-tempo kind of ballady thing. Yeah, look, I thought the shadow thing was a bit odd. I agree with that, but you could have cleaned that up by just even get rid of them.
Talking about cleaning things up, Jorge Gonzalez was another big crowd favourite there. Dale, what did you think of him?
We'll talk about getting the heart racing there, Michael. Look, this was an epic performance, and this is a performance that is what a lot of people expect on the Eurovision stage. It's not about what the fandom think. This is about your Saturday night casual watchers. People would have picked up the phone for this. The juries wouldn't have really come for it, that's for sure, but there is overall impression, and I'm not just talking about his look and his aesthetic. It was all very well done. Unfortunately, it just lacked a few more moments for him to vocally shine, to make more of it, because at times he did this kind of like half dance. I wouldn't even call it a dance break. He just kind of wandered around and did a couple of poses.
Writhing around.
Yeah, well, no, more the kind of like, Matador-esque. But it needed more. Particularly in the second half. But wow, what impact. That was the best visual performance, and I honestly don't mean just the way it looked. I mean, it was hot, don't get me wrong, but it was a wonderful staging.
Yes, well, the song was caliente, so it was kind of hot. I'll agree, the song felt a little languid. I mean, yes, it was reggaeton, but it was very much Muérdame from Maria, which we heard back in, 2019, 2018 kind of thing. So a little bit of a dated song, I thought, as well, probably went against him.
True. He's much better than that song, I think.
I agree. Last one I'll probably bring up is Angie. She seemed to be another one of the big crowd favourites, another one of the fan favourites. What do you think of her?
Well, look, I have to eat my words. On a preview video with Liv from the team who loved this, I said it was going to come midfield and Jorge would beat it, and Angie beat Jorge. My thing on this one was she was very good and she did a very good job of it, but ultimately it was a dated early 2010s alternative rock song written by Swedish songwriters, included Thomas Gison.
Yes.
So everyone getting in their alt, this is so special, and normally hate Sweden, you would love in a Swedish song.
Yeah, fair enough. I have to say it was consistently in the points with juries, demoscopic and the tally vote. So it did very, very well to probably end up where it probably deserved to be.
It was very, very solid, and I could understand if I was a jury member, I would have voted for it.
She was very charismatic too.
Yeah, she was.
Anyone else catch your eye there, Dale? Anyone you want to talk about?
Not really, to be honest. Probably overall, I thought it was more style over substance of Benidorm this year. I thought visually everything was very good, though. Maybe one too many backing dancers. Some songs just, it's a heartfelt ballad, as you said, and they've got backing dancers. Diminishing returns on songs. Yes, I'll say.
I'm going to say that as well. I think production-wise, it looks fantastic, but we're just not getting the quality of songs we kind of got in the first edition, which is pretty hard. That was a pretty iconic edition. So maybe a little format tweak, possibly, because also we're seeing big audiences watching, but no one voting.
Yeah.
So maybe there's an issue here that they don't feel their tally vote is being counted properly, because they're only 25% of the vote. So, whereas the jury's got 50. So,
And the jury pretty much decides the order only swapped between two positions in the final from the jury, because there's not much you can do in capped public voting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, still very, very good from Benidorm, but maybe we could look to freshen it up a little next year. Well, on the same morning here in Australia was the final of Norway's Melody Grand Prix, and we have a winner from there, Dale. This is Gata with Ulvaham. Right, Dale. Well, I'll kick us off on this one. What a very interesting piece of music. It's the first thing I've written down here. Now, it's very folk rock with a big dose of metal thrown in. Now, not really my kind of music. I'm going to have to put up my hand and say this. And it's not something I'll probably rush to listen to in the studio. But I have to say, once the performance comes onto stage, it all comes together and it all makes sense to me. I think they've got a very, very solid package ready to go here.
Oh, God, yeah. And you've hit the nail on the head. It's all about the visual performance and how it sounds. Of course, with that, studio, I was like, what is this nonsense? And it was down towards the bottom for me. Then I watched that semi-final performance and I was completely won over because there's every element coming together. Her performance, the way she just, she knows how to move her body in a way that comes across so well with the song and with TV. The cut shots to the different band members is fantastic. It just is atmospheric. It really just works to the point I can listen to the studio now because I got the visual in my head with it. But yeah, it's really, really interesting. It always goes to show you've got to wait for that live performance to really judge a Eurovision entry. I was really stoked that it won, even though I was equally as sad for Kano not winning.
Yeah.
I was split. I felt very torn, as Natalie Brulia would say.
Yeah, I agree. We ranked all the songs on studio prior to the semi-finals, and this was probably in my bottom 3. It just didn't really hit me in studio. But seeing it, all of a sudden, I was just like, wow, that's going to win. I'm also going to say in Norwegian, first time for quite a while that we've had a song sung in Norwegian. This is pretty risky for the Norwegians. They're generally a nice tight pop package. I don't know, any thoughts you reckon this one might go?
Well, I think I feel like audiences in a nation always get it right to a point about what they want to do with something. And we'll probably talk about that with Ireland later. And we've seen that with Australia when we had Australia Decides. Norway have been getting the most consistent results at Eurovision and doing super well. And I think Norway's gone, we want to have a chance at the top crown. I don't know if this can obviously win, but you need to go for something more than just a public vote influence one. Something that could work. The juries could tank this, but they could love it. The public could tank this, or they could love it. You just don't know. It has that wildcardness to it that you need to have that risk to have a real chance. And I think Norway said, hey, we want to send this rather than everything else we'll send. And hey, we'll go back to Euro pop cheese next year.
Yes, I'm sure they probably will. Let's have a quick talk about the others in the national final. You've already touched on one of them. Our runners-up were Kano. Pretty tough. Second time runner-up, and by 6 points this time, Dale.
Yeah, it's almost like football, almost like our beloved Socceroos who went out.
You had to bring that up, didn't
for the Asian Cup on the weekend after a last-minute equaliser and losing in extra time. Sometimes it's just better to lose 2 or 3-0, you know. And I think for Kano, that I think I would have just liked to have seen them lose by a bit more of a comfortable margin to make it feel not as heartbreaking. Because when they had that lead in the jury, I did suspect that they wouldn't do amazing in the public compared to maybe how they could have done previously. Opening the show, no doubt, did not help them. Interesting, maybe if they didn't open and went a bit later, could have that made up the points? Who knows? But ultimately, they had a crack at it. I don't know, it's on the zeitgeist of everything happening with Eurodance at the moment. It could have been the one to stand out that way. But ultimately, I still don't think it's as good as Spirit in the Sky that had that magic. And I don't know whether you're going to keep going back to the well to try and beat something that probably was your highest moment for a Eurovision song. I just don't know if it can be done.
Feel for them. They've been told, you've got to appeal to the juries. You've got to appeal to the juries. They'd won the jury and then, again, lost by 6 points. So got to feel for them a little bit. They have said at this point, probably won't give it another crack, but hey, maybe they're just a bit emotional at this point. Another one I want to mention, Dale, My AI. Christ almighty, this is the dystopian future that we were worried about. What did you think of this one?
Look, I love that it was in there. I love that it was in there. I kind of was on board for it being part of it from the start, but then I got worried because it's absolute trash. Like, rubbish. It's terrible. It's horrendous. It's worse than Aqua and that band Toy Box at the time put together. It was horrendous. And I was worried that it might have a shot at winning. It was actually did okay in the jury. But, look, it was fun. It was fine, but thank God it's going nowhere near the Eurovision stage.
I want it put in a trash compactor and pulped so it never, ever appears again. All right. I was also going to say, Dave, just quickly, better format, I thought, from this year from Norway. We kind of had our 3 semi-finals, bang, 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 straight to the final. All felt a little punchier.
Yeah, I think ultimately they've learnt every year from this new approach of the semis, and it's better than it used to be, for sure. I like having the semi-finals, and a lot of the songs that missed out were really good, already fun. Like Woman Show was really fun, and there were some other really good songs in there. So you didn't feel like there was just dirge and filler queens as such in the semis. Like it was a good Melody Grand Prix overall, and a cracking final in that stadium with amazing interval act between the jury and public votes as well.
I will totally agree. I think Melody Grand Prix back on track. Well, Dale, one of the most anticipated national finals of the year was coming out of Ireland this year with Eurosong. Now, we had a winner there. Let's have a listen to Bambi Thug with Doomsday Blue.
I see the scars in your eyes. I know you're living a lie. I guess you'd rather have a star than the moon. I guess I always overestimate you. Who do all the things that you do? I'm down in my doomsday blue.
Okay, well, what do you think of this one, Dale?
Well, the biggest thing coming out of this is Ireland taking a risk. And that is the biggest story of the whole lot. It was what everyone was waiting for, and what was going to happen. Was Ireland going to choose another safe mid-pop song that had no chance of getting out? Or were they going to take a risk on something? And they took a risk. Bambi Thug did a fantastic performance on the night. They are very confident in their approach. And it was something different that you are going to remember whether you like it or not.
Yep, totally agree. So first and foremost, well done, Ireland. And you could see, we'll talk about the national final a bit more in a moment, but you could see the will to take some risks. So well done. Having said that, do I like the song? I don't hate it. I'll put it that way. Again, it's probably not something that would really resonate with me. I don't think it's bad. There is a lot going on, a lot of very different elements we traverse throughout the song. I'm not entirely sure they'll meld together for a lot of people, particularly on first listen. I think that's where I think the Achilles heel is.
Yeah, look, I'll talk about the positives. Easily, they did the best vocal of the night in some big sound mixing issues as well. That was the only downside. But the mix of genres... There's a nice transition actually into the melodic bit, and actually that's my favourite little part of it. Now, I've said this in several different channels. I find the verses very amateur theatre, very drama student at university. The kind of sing-talky delivery of it, I just find so off-putting. And, I mean, maybe that's my personal taste, but I just don't think it comes across super professional. I do feel there's a level of, this is a Eurovision stage, you're going to need to bring a bit more than, I don't know, that. The rest of it is very good. Those little fingers on that little, those
on the
outfits,
on
yeah,
the
that's really
dancers,
cool. And look, it is going to be memorable, but I think everyone's getting a little overexcited because Ireland's taken a risk. Doesn't mean it's going to work out. We've got a lot of this type of songs. We've seen things flop in the past in this kind of genre. The getting up to top 10 in the odds is just the most ludicrous thing I've ever seen. Top 10 to qualify is a lucky odds at this point, I think.
Yeah, I'm kind of going to agree there. I will say, I think staging is really, really important for this. If they can pull it together and make it work and make it kind of transition well into each of them, then I think we've got a good package on our hands. We have got a few witchy, rocky songs already. So as far as, USPs here, it's got a crowd market already, which is odd considering they've taken a risk. So, it's got a pop on the stage. I don't think it's dead in the water like Wild Youth was last year. Like the minute they picked that, they were gone. But I'm worried about its chances. I really, really are worried about its chances here. It's also in the same semi-final as Ukraine and Slovenia. Probably better packages of a song, I think, both of those. So, look, I'm not saying it can't do it, but I wouldn't be rushing to buy my grand final tickets if I was Irish thinking I'm going to be there, because it's not a guarantee, not a lock for sure.
Yeah, and I hope Ireland and Irish fans see this as a right step in the right direction. You may not get your payoff this year. You may, who knows? We could be completely wrong. But it's got this, compared to the Spanish people, they should be happy about this direction and be happy with what they're sending, even if it doesn't make the grand final. It is a step in the right direction. Could you imagine the meltdowns when it doesn't? But also, let's talk about Slovenia compared to Ireland. Ireland's in the first half, Slovenia's in the second half. Who's got a bigger budget? Look at that video for Slovenia. Raven's got some money behind her. She's going to pump it in. How much money is there really for Bambi Thug? Very creative. I think they're a good artist. As I said, I like their confidence. But I'm just really worried about how this is going to look on that beautiful stage
Yeah.
in Melbourne.
I agree. And when we get to this massive stage, look, with some creativity, I think the whole thing can work. Definitely. All right, shall we talk a little bit more about the national final, Dale? I will start. I think it was a massive improvement. And I think it was a massive improvement because of the will. They felt like they had a crack with what they had. Yes, there was probably some sound issues, and it's not the biggest stage. It's done in a studio, that's fine. But I felt like, hey, they put some passion into this.
Yeah, I mean, it was still pretty low budget, but it was a low base.
Exactly.
Very, very low base. So, again, steps in the right direction. I think we also just need to be like, let's not go over the top for a pretty lower mid national final here. No disrespect, Ireland can still do better than this. Ireland can do better than this.
Yeah.
Don't settle just because you've improved. This is still not good enough, and they can still do much, much better, but you've taken a step in the right direction.
I agree. And I want a spa hamper.
Yeah.
They looked amazing. Christ, maybe save on spa hampers and put that into the performances.
And look, I know it's still we've been very harsh on Ireland,
We have.
and there's a reason why, because they can do so much. It's all there for them. They can do just as well as many other countries. So, I wish them the best, right direction. I don't see this getting off the bottom of my rankings, I'll say.
All right, well, one of the most look forward to national finals of the season was that from Luxembourg, who have returned to the competition. Now, we had a winner there, Dale. Let's have a listen to Tali and Fighter. All right, so what did we think of Tali?
Well, I love this.
So basic.
Look, the thing is, I am basic. I don't care. I'm basic. Look, this is a personal taste thing. I loved it from the start because, number one, I love the mix between French and English, and it is just a bop, and it's a bop done well. I think a lot of people in Luxembourg will come up on the stage in that semi-final. Many people expect to hear some French. Now, I know it's not their main language, but it's what people remember of them in Eurovision. So they're going to expect French, and they're going to deliver. And her performance was fantastic in, what can I say, a very expensive, they've got money, very expensive, national final for Luxembourg.
Yeah. Look, I'm probably not as keen on it as you. This all feels very solid to me, I've got to say. The song is catchy and should stick with people. She can sing the song and perform it, because I think she's quite a good performer as well. It shouldn't be too hard to stage. I think they've got a good concept already. So all the elements for success, I feel, are there on this one. It does feel a little dated. Just a little. I wouldn't say it's the most modern piece of music, but it's fine. It's Eurovision. I think this is a really good chance. It's something I hear and it sticks with me. And I think it's one of those songs on first listen, it will stick with you. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident with this one, and add a bit of good sentiment heading Luxembourg's way with their return. I could imagine this is sailing through.
I think I'd be feeling pretty confident about it. It's just, and it's not about what is a better song and what's not a better song. It's I can hear the Bambi Thug people yelling at me going, you love this dated trash, but you don't like Bambi Thug, you've got no taste. Well, maybe in some eyes I don't, but
I think they just say that to you anyway,
yeah, that's true, all my songs, right? But if you analyse this, goodwill to Luxembourg, it is a bit of a bop. There's not a lot of pop bop so far this year. Also, she does great choreography without it looking like a Chanel ripoff. With many others, we'll get to Malta later, looking like that this year. A lot of people compare. I think there's enough elements and the song's so kind of different that it does sound different. But I agree with you, it is a bit dated. Liv from our team said it reminded her of a Destination Eurovision French national final from 2018. And that is exactly the era, right?
Yeah.
But I love Destination Eurovision 2018.
6 years ago, though, unfortunately.
I know, but it's very much around there. So I agree with you on the datedness.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with you as well with the choreography, etc. They did enough without overdoing it and still allowed her to sing, etc. So I think there's another gear for this one as far as presentation goes, but I think they're very, very much on the right track.
Yeah, exactly. And if it makes a final, it's that kind of like, teens into early 20s area, but who cares? Luxembourg just want to be in that grand final.
Now, you did mention the national final previously. Thoughts? Because the first thing I wrote was, it looks expensive.
Very, very expensive. I think really well done overall. The points delivery was pretty terrible. I get very hung up on that. It was done really poorly. But overall, I mean, they wheeled it out like every Eurovision winner, I think, for the past 50 years, whether they were zooming in from their car or performing on stage.
Gosh.
So it was a cavalcade of stars and money and performances, and it looked good. And yeah, I mean, well done for their return.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought production values were great. Each song had a good concept or decent choreography, all that sort of thing. It felt very well thought through, so big thumbs up for their return.
Now, Crick, who was the other artist, what the song was, Drowning in the Rain? That was runner-up. Actually won the public vote by a single point. Do you think, was it better to send Tali, or do you think the other song would have been better?
I'm probably with Tali. I probably lean towards this style of music a bit more anyway. But no, this felt like the right package on the night, I thought. Yeah,
I agree. I thought Crick. Now, look, it was written by Elsie Bay, or co-written, who has been in Norway before, and it did sound very much like an Elsie Bay song. Which there's some lovely little moments in it. Ultimately, I think Crick probably didn't have. She was 90% there with the vocal, and it really needed to be 100 to really stand out, not just at that national final, but also at Eurovision. So I think for the chances of getting through, which that's their victory, get through to the grand final, I think Tala is the better option.
Yeah, I will agree with you on that one. Okay, Dale, now we're heading off to one of the big national finals of the year, Vidber and Ukraine. Let's have a listen to their winner. It's Aliona and Jerry Heil with Teresa y Maria. Well, Dale, we did get a winner eventually. What do you think of Aliona and Jerry?
Yeah, well, I'll talk about the song first. We'll get to the drama later. Wow, this has got instant appeal. Take away the entire situation, and it is a powerful song immediately. And I really like that you've got this very kind of deep, dark vocal and, you know, that kind of sound we expect from Ukraine. But then I love the rap coming in to give it some modernism. It just needs something else to just bring it a little back into 2024. And that combination, which sometimes can fall really flat, works really well here. And I'm so impressed to see Jerry Hale go from that awful vegan song from a few years ago to something I thought this is much, much better than what she was going to try and go with last year. And on the situation, and we know there's always a public vote, this is our first big kind of, it's up there. Like, I'd be very surprised for it not to be top 5 rusted on already. And obviously, it's jumped up to the top of the odds. It's got every chance of doing very, very well come May.
I agree. I think this is our first contender for the season, really, for the crown. The first thing I've written is wow. I mean, like, Ukraine, you do it again. You know, how do they manage, and nobody in Eurovision does this, to meld these different styles together and yet keep it modern and cohesive? It's absolutely stunning. I really, really love this song. And with the right staging, this will hit. Now, there is some comparisons going on to the other ethno-folk songs that they've sent in previously. I think this one probably leans a bit more to 1944 in style than perhaps Shum.
Oh, massively.
But this is fantastic. And another chance to win here for Ukraine. Seriously, I just think it's rusted on top 5. Rusted on.
And it would have been a really good chance of doing well regardless of the situation.
Yes.
Because Ukraine always have been. So that's another one. Just forget the whole thing. Obviously, when we analyse how it could do. But talking about the song, it's just really good. And I agree. The staging could be magic. But that's what's going to give it the winner or not.
Yes.
If it could win, it's all going to be about how you can make that staging magical. Because to me, that has more initial listener appeal than a 1944. And we all know Jamal's performance and that wonderful staging got them the win. But this has more initial straight off appeal. If you can replicate even 3/4 of what Jamala do, then you've got a good chance.
Yeah, like I'm very much a pop kind of guy, but this works for me big time, big time. Well, Dale, we did mention Vidbeer and there was some drama. Talk us through a little bit of what happened there.
Well, yes, their national final always goes very long, but it went particularly long this
It was
time.
4 hours or something, wasn't it?
So basically, well, they did the show and then they were waiting for the results to come through, and it was all being done by an app. Now, this app is where they have all their documentation. Every citizen in the Ukraine has this, and there were massive issues going on with the app. Who knows where or how or where that came from, but they couldn't give the results. They were stalling to try and see if they could fix the issue with the app. And so for hours on the live feed, and Paul Cooper from the Aussievision team who was covering Ukraine just had to listen. It was meant to be English subtitle, like spoken commentary over the top, and she kind of gave up halfway. Apparently,
She went home.
She just gave up.
Contract was up.
Yeah, she was like, "Nope, that's it. I'm going home. Enough of this." And eventually, hours and hours later, they just said, "Look, we're not going to get a result today. We're going to go. It's going to be tomorrow." And they gave the result. The winning song, which we just heard, got 7 times the amount of second place, 750,000 odd votes to
Something
like
like
90-something thousand,
Yeah.
I think. And so then there were Melvin, who came, I think, third, was saying we couldn't trust the votes. Someone pulled out before the votes were announced.
Oh, gosh.
It was all just drama. Drama from both the extension of the vote of the issue and then also the artist's response afterwards. And you know what? I love this annual tradition, Michael, because this is Vidbeer. There is drama every single year.
Someone spits it. Someone spits about the result. You know, there's always something. I have to say, I do love it. They got to speed it up a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, they really, really drag it out. Even given the whole voting problems, you still got to speed it up, people. Come on. Like,
it's a nightmare.
It just seems to go for a long, long time. But, yeah, it wouldn't be Vidbeer without a little bit of drama, and this year it was around the voting.
But as always, it doesn't matter how it's chosen in the end. They always pop out something the other side that does damn well, and this is no doubt going to do very, very well again.
Yes, we'll totally agree with that. All right, Dale. Well, now we're off to one of our personal favourite national finals that comes around every year, and it's Malta and their Malta Eurovision Song Contest. And we had a winner, and it's Sarah Bonici with Loop.
It was obvious you'd end up like this. Not my fault that you got me on. I'm a lamb with the bad things on you. I'm a teasing, no catch. You love it when I move. In your head all night, you got me on loop.
All right, Dale. Talk us through Sarah. What do you reckon about this one?
Well, look, I can see why this won. It won the jury. It was just second place, I think, in the public vote. And it was a very competent girl bop performance. And the song isn't that bad. I think her choreography is such a borrowed concept. I mean, there literally are the exact same moves of Chanel and slow-mo. Like, you know, when people say, oh, this is just, you know, slow-mo again. And like people used to say, this is just another fuego. The choreography is like almost literally the same at points. But also, can I just say, well performed. She put a blindfold on. She did a front flip or back flip or something. And she was very good. I see why this won.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm also just going to pick up on that point. I don't think I mind if people borrow from performances for national finals. For example, you can borrow heavily from Chanel. I'm not saying she did, but you can't go to the contest and do it.
No.
But I think for a national audience, it's fine. For me on this one, this is so Maltese, Dale. Just so Maltese. It's all fine. The song is fine. Her voice is fine. The presentation was fine. The dance break was fine. But nothing else. Like, it's not going to blow anyone's socks off, this song. And this seems to be the problem for Malta, I think. I think that they're very good, they're very solid, but unless they're exceptional, they really, really struggle to get the points. And I'm thinking we're falling back into that category again this year.
Yeah, unless they pump the money in big time, like Tourism Malta comes to the rescue again. They really, really, really struggle, and it ends up being, look, they're a small nation. They love Eurovision. They put so much into it. They fall into the old Ireland camp, and even sometimes the Australia camp of just sending a very generic song that could be from anywhere. It could have been written by the Swedes. It could have been written by the Germans. Who knows? But it just, you've got to do something to stand out.
Yep.
And I know, and we'll get to another song later, I know no one wants to go into novelty, but I think for Malta, it was the choice of either send something so brilliant that it doesn't matter and you can overcome anything, or you've got to lean in hard. Because look what the Busker did last year. They had 3 points, and I thought they did a good job. And this doesn't stand out to me
It's
more.
not instantly as likable, not instantly as memorable, and they got 3 points last year.
They're in trouble.
Yeah,
They're in trouble.
I think they're the country that have suffered the most from the change in the semi-finals.
Oh,
because,
massively.
As I say, they just really struggled to get the votes. This semi-final, no Australia, no United
UK.
Kingdom with them, tend to be
No Ireland.
Yeah, tend to be fairly beneficial. So I think it's just a bit of an uphill climb for Sarah. I do think this is not bad, and I do think there could possibly be another gear here, particularly with a little bit of a revamp of the song. But I do see it struggling a little bit, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely worthy of the Eurovision stage.
for sure.
I don't think it's the worst performance and the worst song amongst the lot. I don't know who that is. But I think the thing is, like, it's just where do the points come from? And the problem with this is I just don't see who's going to put this in the top 10 unless you find another gear or you find another song. Because I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's okay, but I'm not sure. Like, I think Emma Muscat was better. This is probably one of their weakest they've sent for many years, and they've been struggling. So it's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But Sarah will get her moment, and I think she's worthy of it, but it's not getting through to the grand final.
Not in the current guise, I'd imagine. All right, let's have a quick chat about the national final. What did you think of Mesk this year, Dale?
As always, it's drawn out for no particular good reason.
Oh, speaking of another one who could get to move on, people. Come on.
It was very interesting how, like, the auditions were very low-key in that kind of bar or whatever the situation was, and that was fine. Then they had all these kind of videos that they put out that were actually looked pretty good production. Then the final was just in a TV studio with no audience. Now, Malta's known for their wonderful national finals with an amazing audience, and I think that's probably one of the best things about it. It felt even less... If that was it, just that the one thing that goes for Mesk is just the love of the contest on the island or the nation, and all the bank ads. We had all the ads, but we just didn't have the audience, and it felt flat and lifeless.
It definitely a smaller version, wasn't it, of the national final this year. Times are tough around the world, so all the broadcasters are struggling, so I kind of can agree. I guess we'll talk about the other song that probably stood out on the night, Matt Black with Banana. What did you think of this?
Oh, the song is awful.
It's just...
But it probably should have gone.
Oh, what?
Well, the thing is exactly what I just said. Like, if you want to send a song for Eurovision to get points, some people are going to pick up their phone for the absolute novelty factor of this. Because if you zhuzh it up a bit more, him riding that giant banana was epic. On Twitter, I was saying it was the most iconic thing of the whole season already, and for the full season, nothing will beat it. Now, I was kind of tongue-in-cheek, obviously, but there was some truth in it. Like, it was quite an iconic thing. And when you get to the end of the night, in a televote semi-final, this is what we've got now. This would get more points than Sarah Bonici. It's just an absolute fact.
Yeah.
In the current guise.
I will actually agree with you. I do think this probably would have been the one to send, because at least people might remember you and might vote for you, because at the moment, just can't see the votes coming. So, as crazy as it was, I would have probably preferred a bit stronger musically, but it certainly caught the eye.
And that's the kind of contest we're in at the moment for a kind of country to send something, and the public did choose this. You have to go with a big crazy banana to have a chance of going compared to a very competent, good song. That's where we're at now with the public voting, but that's where it is.
Totally agree. That is the set of parameters we have. The only other person I will mention, Ryan Hilly. Please give the guy a decent song one day, because he can belt it out, and at least we can get him over and done with and get him over the line and see him at Eurovision.
Exactly.
All right, Dale. So no national final for our next one we're discussing. It is Slovenia, and Raven, who we knew would be heading to the contest. She has released her song Veronica. Let's have a listen.
Bránime,
thoughts on Raven and Veronica Dale?
Well, I'm glad she's going. She's obviously competed in their national final many times, and it feels like there's a bit of effort behind this if you just judge the music video, because essentially if you're going to put a lot of money into that, you're probably going to be putting a lot of money into your performance. To me, this is a visual song. It's a visual spectacular I'm expecting to see on the stage. I don't whistle it down the street. I don't think anybody does, right? I think the subject matter is really interesting, like literal witch, drowned, and all that kind of stuff. And so I think there's a lot to play with the staging of this, and it's going to need to, because the song itself isn't the most remarkable thing out there. She's a really interesting artist. She could get it over the line, but it is going to depend, because you do have those other songs in there that we spoke about earlier. But look, it's a decent effort from what we can see so far. But this is going to be a very hard song to judge until May. And when we do all the kind of previews and all that kind of stuff, I feel like I'm going to be saying the same things over and over again. It's all going to be about the visual. Who knows until we see the staging.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Another one with a lot going on musically in the song. I'm really interested to see how she performs this, to be honest, because the vocals we've seen in a national final can be a little hit and miss, and there's a lot she has to do in this one. For me, the staging's critical. If they get the staging right, this seems tailor-made for the Eurovision stage, and it could be stunning. If they get it wrong, it's Iru from last year.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very much. Yeah, you're right.
So I have my doubts about Slovenia and staging. Like, when was the last time they put on a decent stage show? Now,
That's true.
Last year, yes, the boys were good, but all they did was have a steady cam and roll around and film some boys.
They were the staging.
Exactly.
Yeah, 'cause
there was no concept.
They spoke for themselves and who they were.
There was absolutely no concept. So, it's really critical they get this one right. Otherwise, it could just end up looking a little flimsy like Iru ended up looking. But there's potential here at the same time.
You're right. When I think about Slovenia and I think about staging, I think about simplicity. With, the duo with the keyboard. That was probably one of the better ones. But, I mean, it wasn't over the top.
A starscape with two awkward kids staring at each other.
Exactly. Leah Cirque had to turn the lights off. Tinkara had a flute. Maria had some headphones. So that could have been a lot better. They've never gone big, have they? Really, on staging. Not in recent times I can think of. So, yeah, unless there's a big production with this, they could be in trouble. And, hey, they're in our semi-final. I don't mind if some stuff starts falling away, please.
I mean, she's been knocking on the door for a while, and they've obviously internally selected her, so I wouldn't be surprised if they are throwing a few euros behind this one, so I'm expecting a bit of a stage show.
True. Right, well, we've caught up with everything, Michael. That's been quite a bit to get through. Yes. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot coming our way. So you won't be waiting a month until the next episode. We will probably be back in, I was reckon, probably about a fortnight.
Yeah, a couple of weeks. Otherwise, the thing will go for 2 hours. We'll have so much to talk about. Yeah.
Exactly. And look, we've got Sanremo this week, which is massive. Finland are choosing their artist song with UMK. Latvia, Germany, Estonia, Denmark, Lithuania, Moldova, Israel, but let's not talk about that. There's a load happening, so let's just wait and see what comes up in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be back to talk through it all.
Yes, looking forward to it. Plus, we've also got Mellows on at the moment for our hosts, our Melody Festival, and so lots and lots on our screens at the moment.
Exactly right. Well, look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, guys.
Catch you later.
As always, thanks for joining us and thank you for your support. You can follow us on our social media channels at AussievisionNet.
And if you want to support the work that we and 20 Aussievision volunteers do and get some really good bonus content, then you can subscribe to our Patreon. The link is in the show notes.
Thanks very much.
Catch you later.